We've been doing this for over 2 years, right?
I know. Isn't that ridiculous?
Has been.
Hi, everybody.
Crowding 3 years.
So here we are. It's my monthly live hangout with some of my Patreon patrons. Welcome everybody who's watching. Welcome everybody who is here with me. There's still a few slots open for anybody who's a patron who's watching, who wants to jump in. Just go to my Patreon feed and you'll find the join link right there. So yeah, I guess first of all, happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. It's another one of those. It's another one of those American holidays where we take something incredibly solemn and depressing and we say, let's get drunk and eat.
And let's watch cars go around a track at 200 plus miles an hour.
Yeah.
Which is a traditional votive thing, but feasting is just too common these days.
That's, yeah. We have too many excuses to eat and drink in America, I think.
Our feast was yesterday, and it was actually pretty good. We had, the typical, burgers and hot dogs and mac salad and tater salad and all sorts of other good stuff. And it was just a good, nice, relaxed time. And, there's a fundamental goodness to that, I think. Just people hanging out, chatting, and
sure,
and having good food and good company. And
speaking of holidays, how was your birthday, Steve?
Oh, it was great. Thank you very much. Yes, my birthday was earlier this month. It would be the actual day. It was my perfect birthday because I didn't do anything special. It was just a completely normal day because I hate birthday parties and stuff like that. It was nice. I remember my wife and I drank coffee and ate chocolate donuts and watched Netflix.
Awesome.
It was the most wonderful.
Not too cold. You just need a light jacket.
Exactly. Because I think I've probably said this on this hangout before, because I repeat myself incessantly. That for most holidays, my ideal way to spend the holiday is just really not to do anything special. Like my ideal New Year's Eve is to go to bed at 10:30, and just wake up the next morning and it's the next year. Like I really, if I were single, that's what I would do. Like I would just be like, oh, New Year's Eve, and I'd wake up the next morning and it would be 2018.
Yeah. A lot of holidays like that are artificial. Although I will admit, one of my favorite ways to celebrate, particular occasions. There's this one Mexican restaurant here in Cleveland. It's called Lopez. And number one, they have absolutely excellent margaritas. And number two, they have enchiladas mole poblano, which are just, they are it's the mole poblano I learned about this stuff with. And I've, in all the other places I've ever had it, I've never had it better. And it's better known as Mexican chocolate sauce. And it has 33 some odd different ingredients, has a nice edge on it. And over chicken enchiladas, it is absolutely finest kind.
Sounds delicious.
Oh, it is. You ever make it up here, Steve? We absolutely hit the plate. And
have to make a list.
That is an open invitation. And here comes the ever popular, spooky Putty Cat. Hey, come here, you. You're going to get on camera whether you like the idea or not.
Honestly, I wasn't paying attention to the words you were saying. I was looking at.
Here he is, famous in song and story, the Spookamus, Puttiamus, Catamus. Hi, Spooks. Come on.
Oh, James, it looks like you're getting sound through again.
Really?
And
I can't hear myself.
Oops.
Hello?
We can hear James, everybody.
Hello.
All right.
Oh my God. I can't hear myself. This is weird.
It's a miracle.
It is a technological wonder. I don't know what I've done to make it work.
Yeah.
Don't touch it.
James, be careful, James. You're talking about FM, and I don't mean no static at all. I mean fucking magic.
Yeah, I only recently heard that song for the first time, so I only now actually get the jokes. So
nothing but blues and Elvis. And somebody else's favorite song.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch anything else. As long as it works, I'll settle for that.
Yes. Let's
Yeah,
not
the actual microphone I have doesn't seem to do a damn thing. So
it's so strange. Let's not disrupt this delicate balance.
Let's not.
No. So how are you, James? We didn't get to talk at all last month.
We did not, indeed. It's just gone 2 a.m. here, so I'm up late, and that's you may be able to make out a bunch of my socks drying off in the background. It's been like that.
Okay. If it works, you use it.
Well, I have this blue backdrop,
all
so
I've
you
got
can't
at the
see my
moment,
dryer,
so-
so it's okay.
Yeah, the technology wasn't with me last month. It seems to be this month. I will take that.
It is chosen to work for you.
I am just relieved that the rest of the world seems to have survived having Donald Trump in it for the last 2 weeks.
Well, he hasn't been here yet. So
No, you have
we've missed out on the experience.
you have escaped, but other portions of the Commonwealth, I think, had to endure his presence.
Give us
Trump
time.
did not
Give us
make
time.
landfall in Britain.
I have to wonder what the conversations were like in Saudi Arabia after he left. Did you get that guy? No, it just
What an asshole!
And it smells like cheese.
Yeah.
Here's what I don't get about the
They're gonna
Saudi
have to wash
Arabia thing.
everything.
Here's what I don't get about the Saudi Arabia thing, and I haven't heard that many people mention this so far, but to me, it's the most obvious wrong thing about his whole trip to Saudi Arabia. He signed, at least he signed memos of intention to sell them $110 billion in arms, right? Saudi Arabia, as most people know, or at least strongly suspect, is the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Donald Trump just sold them $110 billion worth of weapons. And then he gave a speech to the rest of the Middle Eastern leaders where he said, you all need to do more to stop terrorism. Excuse
But
me?
he likes Islam now.
Well,
so
I mean,
that's,
the hell of it is,
something.
Steve, it's not as though it's the first time we've sold them weapons. They've had
no.
F-15s and F-16s and all
ages.
sorts of I mean, look back to when we fought the first Gulf War, for crying out loud. You had Prince Bandar going up there in a 15, smoking a couple of MiG-29s or whatever have you. I mean, and it wasn't news back then. And that was when Bush was in, Bush Senior was in the hot seat. So
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
it's nothing
it's
new.
soup yesterday and it's soup today.
It's nothing new, but I just the hypocrisy of, and he bragged about it. He boasted. He said, we signed a huge deal, $110 billion. Now you all have to stop. You have to start fighting terrorism. Okay. It's like, I mean,
Well, this is the thing that Trump, everything he does seems to be a tweet he posted 4 or 5 years ago where he was criticizing Obama or Hillary or whoever for doing exactly the same thing that he just did.
Naked
So,
hypocrisy.
Well, he has no memory.
I don't-
He has no self-consciousness.
yeah.
I mean, all he knows is what he wants at the moment. And in that
and
regard,
$110 billion is always a good thing in him anyway. So
That's why
I don't
he's
think he cares really about
second memory, just like a goldfish.
Yeah.
yeah, except doesn't smile back until you bite his head off or something.
Something like
We
that.
flush
Yeah.
it down the toilet.
Goldfish, the snack that smiles back.
Yeah. that was, because that wasn't creepy when they added the little smiles to the goldfish, was it?
No, not at all.
You want to be able to look in their eyes when you do it.
Yeah. I remember when they did that. It was like, I guess sales are stagnating for the goldfish, everybody. What are we going to do to really spike it? I know. Let's put faces on them.
Really get that
Let's give them
status market,
faces.
You'll be able to eat something with a face. Everybody loves that.
It's funny though,
No.
because listening back, I'm listening back to an old podcast I was listening to. I stopped listening for 6 months or so for various reasons, and I'm catching up again. And every episode they talk about Trump and all the shit he was been doing that week. So it's kind of interesting going back and hearing the controversies again, and just be like, how is this guy still in office? Hearing these controversies one after the other, in rapid fire, because I'm listening to all the podcasts back to back. And it's just like, oh yeah, I remember when he did that, when he hung up on the Australian minister, if I recall, or.
I know. Even
So
if you
that was a bigger thing overseas than it was here in Australia. Here, we just thought it was funny. Serious.
Yeah, well, you're not
couldn't
stuck
even
with
get the
them
Prime Minister's name right.
24/7.
Yeah.
True, but we are stuck with the ones we've got. So
Yeah.
some of them are bad enough.
Yeah. I mean, the appalling thing about Trump is even if you just limit it to things he's done since January 20th, it's like a horrifying list. Like you can ignore all the stuff he did for his entire life up to when he assumed office and just focus on the last 4 months, and it's still absolutely horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I recall one of the things I brought up was he was going to put out a newsletter specifically outlining crimes committed by immigrants or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that came to fruition, but hearing that, I'm like, oh, fuck, I completely forgot about that one with all the other shit that's happening. I can't keep track of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and just a lot of it is just the little things that don't get as much attention as when he goes out and publicly makes an ass out of himself. But stuff like, like rolling back EPA regulations, or extending the global gag rule to limit American funding to foreign countries that offer abortions. Yeah, I mean,
stripping student loan protection.
Or
things like, I think he also rolled back some of the protections they had against people who have been exposed to asbestos.
Yeah.
And he's still convinced asbestos is safe despite like so many 9/11 rescue workers dead.
Oh, no.
Well, it's like we've known asbestos is dangerous for 30 years.
More than that.
It's not even new.
And here's the real question: what beneficial action taken in the past hasn't he rolled back, or isn't he trying to roll back? I mean, it's Bill Maher's dick moves all over again.
Yeah, and it seems like he's just. I don't think he thinks anything through. I think he's just like, well, if they were going to do that under the previous administration, then we're not going to do it now.
If a black person did it must be bad.
Exactly. He wouldn't have been able to live in one of my buildings.
Unfortunately, I see a lot of Republicans who just think regulations are the devil no matter what they are.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Well, that's been the narrative of the Republican Party since before I was born, is, where government is bad, period. And any kind of regulation.
Been the Republican Party, I think.
Oh, yeah. It always is.
Back to the 19th century even, but they became
you're right.
genuinely horrible only under Nixon.
Well, I think what happened was, and again, this is just based on stuff that I've read and stuff that I've heard, because it happened before I was born. And even if it had happened after I was born, I didn't really start paying attention until about 20 years ago, where the Republican Party in the late 70s decided that they were really going to focus and foreground their anti-government, anti-tax policies to the public, because they figured out that was their most effective sales pitch, because Democrats could always be the party of, we're going to help you. We're going to give you benefits. We're going to give you unemployment. We're going to support public education. And Republicans didn't have anything to counter that with. So they came up with, I know, we'll cut your taxes and let you keep your money, and we'll keep government out of your face.
And we'll oppose abortion.
Yeah. To get the Christians on board, we'll oppose abortion too.
Well, it was all part of the Southern strategy, be racist, just don't sound racist. And they needed something to say to distract from the whole being racist thing.
Support all the racist policies you want, just don't ever actually say anything overtly racist.
Yeah, just find enough cover for
like
it.
Certain politicians here.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Because you can't really run on a platform. We're not racist. Wink.
Exactly.
Well, it's all dog whistle again.
Mm-hmm. They needed something to actually say, so they went with the other half of their platform, which is tax breaks for the wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you work hard enough, you might be wealthy someday too.
And, if that were true, I might be a Republican.
$2 billion tax break. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things about their economic policy where I'm like, it sounds good on paper, but if the world just doesn't work that way.
It's like communism.
Jacob, the problem is you're looking past the surface. I mean...
Yeah, really.
I've actually had this conversation several times this week, because you know how Republicans like to talk about how, like the Democrats, like the idealist party, they have all these ideals that are impossible to actually implement because we don't have the money for that or whatever. But you look at their policies, and it's the exact same thing. It's a fantasy fucking world where you give money to the rich, and suddenly there's jobs everywhere, and everywhere the money trickles down to everyone else, and you restrict people coming in, and suddenly terrorism is gone, and all the jobs.
Yeah.
And what happens when you scratch that reality?
Nothing at best.
Yeah.
At best, nothing.
Same thing that happens when you scratch a hemorrhoid, I imagine.
So actually quite a bit more happens when you scratch a hemorrhoid, presuming you actually have them. I mean, there's still nerve endings in there in case you hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
And thankfully, no, I don't speak from experience, but I mean,
I've heard things.
Yeah,
I've heard some things. I've heard some things. Well, yeah, and then of course after Trump left Saudi Arabia, that was only the first leg of his international tour. He went to Israel.
And he left the Middle East and went to Israel.
Yeah.
He left the Middle East and went to Israel. He signed somebody's yearbook, which turned out to be the guest book at Yad Vashem. Oops. He was going to write. He was going to write "Keep Cool" this summer, but Melania grabbed his arm and whispered in his ear, and he just signed his name.
and actually managed to throw in "Never Forget."
Yeah.
Probably almost
Yeah,
forgot.
like I ever will. Yeah.
It's a great wall. Lock her up.
Yeah.
Did you see
after watching some of those videos, I'm sitting there like, has a president ever been divorced in office?
Oh man, she does. The body language doesn't look promising.
Oh, she never will.
No,
She's
not
happy
a bit.
to live in her little tower.
I saw somebody posted a meme of, it was a photograph of Trump at the Wailing Wall, and he's like, and he has his hand up to it, and his head is bowed, and he's pretending to be solemn. And somebody had put at the bottom, "Everybody gets a wall but me." I thought that was
some
just
really good names from this trip.
The orb.
Yeah.
It's interesting too how much blowback he's getting about the wall now too.
Oh, that yeah. The wall has gotten to the point where even when he drops it in front of Republican crowds, he doesn't get that big of an applause line anymore.
Well,
You know.
I mean, the whole business of Mexico paying for it is pretty much gone.
Yeah,
At this-
that's history.
That was a nice little hallucination, but that's all it ever was.
Yeah. Well, because now he still hasn't let that go. He says, "Oh, well, we'll pay for it first, but then Mexico will pay eventually." Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I won't come in your mouth either.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck.
Now you know why he went bankrupt 4 times.
Yeah.
I thought it was
I'll get somebody
6.
else to pay for it eventually.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We will. I mean, he's not going to pay out of his own pocket. We'll pay for it.
Yeah.
And then he went to Brussels, where he was the least popular kid in class, and nobody wanted to talk to him.
And shoved himself in front of everybody
He
else.
he shoved the prime minister of
Saucy.
Montenegro out of the way.
He was like
Yeah.
an 80s villain. He pushed himself in front of the guy and then straightened his jacket.
Didn't even look at the guy. Shoved a fellow world leader out of the way.
You cannot
Didn't
caricature
look
this
at him.
man. What the hell?
Yeah. He probably doesn't think Montenegro is a real country, though. So.
No, he probably just saw the
He
word
probably
Negro
doesn't even
and-
know what Montenegro is.
Negro, yeah.
He heard that it had Negro in it, and he thought, that's nothing I need to respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And then, but it was almost worth it to see the new French president, Macron, completely blow him off.
Oh,
Like walk toward Trump and then
that
cut the hard right at the very last second and hug Angela Merkel. And then shake like 4
Handshake.
people's hands. Yeah. Oh, it was beautiful.
the handshake as well. That was great.
Yeah. He tries that alpha dog frat boy handshake on people like that.
Draw in, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Macron wasn't having that.
It would be so much fun to shake Donald Trump's hand and then just squeeze it so hard you break his hand. He's probably
Actually,
fragile.
what the way to do it is shake his hand, and right when he's about to give you that hard jerk, just let go so he falls on his ass.
I'll tell you what, the person I'd love him to meet a long time ago when I'd flown into Albuquerque, I actually met Unser Jr., who is, for those of you who don't know, is a pretty respectable race car driver, and just shook his hand. The guy had a grip like iron. But big surprise, he's wrestling a car around a track at 200 miles an hour, no power steering. You tend to develop pretty strong hands. I'd say, oh, Donald Trump, I'd like you to meet Unser Jr. Crush.
Yes.
I will love him, and no, I won't love him.
Yeah, I won't.
Was something wrong, Donnie?
Yeah. You okay there, Mr. President?
Yeah, big man hit my hand. Knock him up.
I know, the Secret Service just stands by and does
Sad.
nothing. Like, well, he wasn't threatening his life. They were shaking hands. What were we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Well, Donnie has these really small hands, so.
Yeah, it's not our fault. Real human hands completely done with his.
You know, I mean, if he has some kind of physiological condition. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be embarrassed about.
Yeah, I have small feet, so yeah.
I mean, and then he got to come home to the delightful news that his son-in-law and one of his chief advisors is under investigation for trying to open a secret channel to the Russians. So,
You know, and again,
Yeah,
I have to ask
funny
who in
that.
his staff isn't under investigation. I mean, you know, it's sort of like that old joke about, you know, incest. It's fine as long as you keep it in the family.
I just realized, I think this may be the longest he's gone without golfing since he became president.
Wow.
yeah. Well, he was going to go.
yes.
He was going to
Well,
golf
he
in
did get a
Saudi
golf
Arabia.
cart at one point, but
He was going to golf while he was in Saudi Arabia, but it was all sand traps, and he's just not. He's like, I'm not. Nope.
no stereotypes.
I'm not.
No stereotypes.
No.
Is it a stereotype that there's a lot of sand in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah. Somebody said on Twitter, Trump and his regime need to be investigated to see if they have ties to America.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that
Exactly.
is perfect.
Very good.
Yeah, it's like
Who in the
does
United
anybody
States are we talking?
does anybody in the government not have Russian connections? It's like I don't know.
Well, that's
One of the
I mean,
interns.
I mean, obviously, it's, you know, some of it is probably wishful thinking on my part. I don't deny that, but you know, you have to wonder, because if the Russia investigation does turn out to bear fruit, and it turns out that they can establish these inappropriate connections between various people in the Trump White House, you have to. I mean, how many people are going to go down? Because it's not just going to be Trump. You'd have to figure Pence is in there too.
Yeah.
You have, and most of his senior staff.
They can't keep any secrets. There's no way Pence doesn't know everything.
No. I mean, his attorney general, his secretary of state. I mean, it's like, God damn it. How far down the line of succession are we going to get before we finally have a president that we can trust hasn't been compromised by the Russians?
The one problem is, of course, I don't think the majority speaker of the House is going to be in on that, most likely. So
Yeah.
we're going to have that asshole.
Ryan's probably smart enough not to get directly involved with Trump, but
Yeah, I think Ryan, but see, Ryan, I suspect, and again, this is just complete speculation on my part. There's like circumstantial evidence that Ryan at least was aware of these things and didn't do anything about it, even if he didn't directly participate. Because, you know, they released that recording a couple weeks ago of the congressman saying what he now says was a joke, just so happened to be a completely on point joke about something that wasn't in the news yet. That Trump was paid by Vladimir Putin. And then on that same recording, you hear Paul Ryan basically tell everybody, yeah, okay, but don't ever mention this to anybody.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah,
So
I
he
mean,
at least,
No leaks.
And what
Yeah,
they'll try to do
leaks.
is pull it out of context. Steve, did you see the statement that Hayden made?
I don't
the
think
Hayden
so.
Planetarium.
I mean, he's laying out in chapter and verse. I mean, all you got to do, I mean, I can't quote him exactly, but Hayden sounds like he's out for blood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that he's out for blood. He's just laying it out like, hey, you know, fresh meat, guys.
Well, I mean, it's like what?
What did you say?
With the rest of the Republicans, though, one thing I noticed is last year you had a lot of Republicans willing to go on record and say they didn't like Donald Trump or kept him at arm's length and were willing to criticize them, and all of them went silent the second he got elected. So you wonder how much of it is just them falling in line.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why I mean, I've never held my breath that they're going to impeach him. You know, I mean, if they
But
don't
that's
find,
actually a good thing after a fashion, because it means
Yeah, you
that
don't
we'll
want-
have him to use in the midterm elections.
keep him around at least till the midterms. And then the Democrats can impeach him. Yeah, I mean, but you're right. I mean, it seems like, well, our side won, and now we have to close ranks. And in this case, that's really frustrating because, you know, you have this person, and not just one person, but this group of people at the top of the government now who are completely untrustworthy. And not only are they trying to do really destructive, harmful things in terms of policy, but they also may be compromised by a foreign government. And the Republican Party is just like, yeah, but he's our guy. It's, you know. Whereas the Democrats can't even unite around someone if they didn't do anything wrong. You know? It's like, can we have a little bit of solidarity, please? Can Democrats be as unified around their candidate as Republicans are around their candidate, who is probably a traitor? You know.
Yeah, it reminds me of something that happened just after the election, where I forget which podcast I was listening to, but they went off on a rant. They're like, okay, the Republicans are trying to do all of this crap, you know, and pretty much destroy our lives, and here we are arguing about safety pins. It's like we got to prioritize here.
Well, you know where the safety pin business comes from, don't you? It's the whole interchange between John Adams and Abigail about pins. I remember hearing that story from actually I think it was 1776 when I first heard that, the musical, if you recall.
I was about to say.
I was like, how old are you?
I am 66 years old, guys. So, I mean, I'm an old fart, and I admit it.
You didn't look like you were in your 30s. Yeah. Yeah, so it's been an interesting month. And just think we have at least another couple years of this to go. I mean, like, I really don't. I try not to get my hopes up. Oh, Trump any day now. You know, like how much more dirt can the Washington Post and the New York Times dig up if he's not going to be around very much longer now? Just, you know, buckle up.
Yeah, especially, well, next year in Pennsylvania, we got a real fight on our hands. We've got a governor and a senator to reelect.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, and if the Democrats can't even win a special election where the Republican guy kicked a reporter's ass the day before the election.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it was Hank Green.
Yeah.
He explained that something like 2/3 of people in Montana vote early.
Also,
because it's so hard to get to the polling places, and because it's a boring state.
Well, it's also an exceptionally red state. I mean, if they'd been able to turn anything blue there, I would have been stunned.
There's probably only one polling place in the entire state, you would think.
But this is my problem. Is one narrative that's been coming up more and more lately is this whole idea of just be tough. You know, they don't care about anything else but tough. But and apparently that means threatening people and physical violence. When even if I accept toughness as that great of a thing, I reject that it should turn to violence.
Well, especially if you're a political candidate and the guy you're using violence on is just a reporter asking you some questions. I mean,
it's like you
escalated so quickly.
Like, what did he do that was even offensive? What did he do to provoke any kind of physical response?
Apparently, he grabbed him by the wrist.
Oh.
Yeah, and actually, we had a similar incident here in Pennsylvania a couple weeks ago where one of the top Republican candidates for governor next year destroyed a reporter's camera. I remember
hearing about
Scott
that.
Wagner.
Yeah.
And I'm really afraid if he runs for president, because he's essentially Donald Trump.
Yeah. When last year, there was a Republican congressman. I forget his name now, but I think he was a congressman from New York who threatened to throw a reporter over a balcony.
I have vague memories of that. Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but it was like, God, what is it with you guys and threatening reporters? Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
It's nothing disturbing about that.
I'll tell you what, Steve, I think in a large portion it's that, you know, their bubble is collapsing around them, and they're at some level, whether conscious or unconscious, they're recognizing it, and they are scared.
Yeah, well, because I think they've had the luxury of over the last couple of decades with the rise of Fox News and with the ability of the internet where you can sort of sort your news for yourself. You know, they've had the luxury of basically just saying whatever they want and trusting that there will be outlets that will report what they say. So their base will just hear what they say, and there won't be a lot of critical coverage. And when they start to get too much critical coverage, I think they panic a little bit because they've become so accustomed to just being able to say whatever they want to a receptive audience.
And now even Fox News is starting to fall apart. I mean, Hannity's way under fire. O'Reilly is gone. Ailes is dead. Their revenues are taking a major league hit. They can't, you know, they're having difficulty getting sponsorship. Fox News is in a bad way.
Oh, yeah.
I never thought I would see Fox in such a bad state as this. It's shocking.
And it happened so quick.
Well, it started with the whole sex scandal business with Ailes and with O'Reilly. And, you know, I mean, I saw collectivist stuff all over the place that says, hey, you know, certain advertisers, pull your stuff from Fox News. And apparently they did.
Yeah, that seems to work.
Yeah, the other thing than the retirement of the boomers. You know, retired people vote more, and the boomers are kind of terrible.
Now, wait a second there. I am a boomer. I am very much a boomer. I am a Democratic boomer.
There are a few good ones.
Parents are also
the first to say.
They exist.
Lauren, look, you gotta take
I don't even know what generation I am. So.
No, I don't know what generation I am either. I'm right on. I'm either an old, an old millennial or a young Gen Xer.
We're X, I believe.
I'm right on the line.
Yeah, I don't even know.
pretty sure
I'm 40. I'm 42, so I don't know what that makes me. Apart from
because my oldest brother is like just about to hit 40, and I know that both of us, me and him, are both Gen X, and of course I look at that and I go like, we're nothing alike at all.
Yeah,
both of the same generation.
I'm probably technically Gen X, but I don't really feel like I actually have.
You're British. You don't tell
any sort of real. I'm Australian, thank you. My parents were Scottish, not British. Too, so that's a definite distinction to be drawn there. I really don't know. I don't understand this whole generation thing. I don't know if
it's another way to break people up one from another. You know, it's a label. It's, you know, it's a slur.
It gives us.
It can be.
Yeah, and it gives us ways to complain about people we don't like.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't
just like millennials. Millennials is very much a slur, quite often I think. They use it as a term of criticism.
Well, yeah, because it happens every 40 years or so, I think, when you know when people my age get old enough to get really resentful of young people, then whatever the young generation then is called, they'll be you know, we'll treat them the same way as, you know, people my parents' age think of millennials, you know.
Yeah, cool.
They had everything handed to them. They blah blah blah, you know.
Yeah, these young people and their hippity hoppity music and whatever. So
they're used to this post-apocalyptic nightmare.
Their computer implants
things and food.
They're so used to having their implanted computers. My day, you had a thing you held in your hand. And that's how we liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You had to charge it. You had to plug it in and charge it. It wasn't charged just by the air.
And
I don't know. I can't even conceive of, quote, wearing a computer myself. I mean, I carry a smartphone, and I duck into, you know, see what's going on here and there. But I mean, these people who literally walk down the street doing this, you know, and
I've only got a smartphone because it's the only thing you can get now. I used to have one of those little Nokia things that were indestructible, and I would still be using mine now if the screen hadn't died on it. So that's the only reason I have a smartphone at all.
Yeah,
I'll still using that little Nokia 3310. It was great.
They forced you to upgrade, like with color television.
Yeah, exactly.
These are the only ones we're selling from now on.
Like, I think I would get like a wearable computer of some sort, but I don't think I would ever get something where you had like, you know, something subdermal. You had like put inside you. Like, I don't even want to get tattoos, much less like get a chip implanted in me. You know?
Yeah, that's what things just
Oh,
weird.
as it comes to chip implants, again, I'm going to date myself here. Steve, maybe you've seen this. Have you any of you ever seen the movie The President's Analyst with James Coburn?
I haven't seen it.
No, but I know of it, but I haven't actually seen it.
Because it is prescient regarding the whole AT&T chip in our heads, universal control, universal surveillance kind of thing. It is also funnier than a shit sandwich. You owe it to yourself to see it.
I have read about it in my old film history books, but I've never actually got around to seeing it. So I will check it out now.
I just love that.
We'll do that.
I just love that Brett mentioned subdermal implants and Lauren had something immediately. He was like, "Oh, implants! I got something." Just had it loaded and ready to go.
RFID.
I would have gone to like RFID tags or something. I would have made a President's Analyst reference. So
Yeah, so kudos.
I just kind of hope that the future computers are something that just like gives a cherry on top for, something that the religious right would hate. It's not enough that it's an implantable computer, but that it's like it has to be put in your butt or something.
I would call it the mark of the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be the brand name of the thing. I would say,
Unit
come get the
666.
mark of the beast.
Yeah, God Awful Movies has done a couple of those where they've been talking about they had movies with the mark of the beast in them, various barcodes or whatever, and some people think they're like social security numbers of the mark of the beast and whatnot. It's like,
well, didn't that original movie, The Thief and the Knife, have that business dealing with that? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a standard. That's a standard trope among Christian apocalyptic movies. I've rarely seen, a post-rapture, like last end of days Christian movie where the mark of the beast wasn't like a huge plot point. Mm-hmm. They're very, very, very paranoid about that in conservative Christianity.
Yeah,
which is why you would call it
chips. All these things.
Yeah, which is why you should call it the mark of the beast. And then
I just found the President's Analyst on a site that I used to download films from, so I'm downloading it now.
Oh wow! Look, okay, he's committing. He's committing a crime. He's committing a crime live on the internet.
Well, no, he's in Australia, so who knows?
Oh, so he's beyond all law. I thought Australia has laws.
Especially if he's in Queensland.
Yeah, bring it on, RIAA or MPA, whoever it is. Yeah.
I didn't. I had nothing to do with it.
You did not encourage me at all.
I did not.
Not in the least.
I begged him not to. You all saw it. I begged him not to.
Yes.
He pushed me. He made me.
He begged me not to, and I refused to pay attention.
Speaking of Christian buffoonery, I suppose. I don't know what it is. It's probably just cognitive bias, But I swear I've been seeing hearing a lot more like people saying very explicit religious things or explicitly religious things in TV shows I've been watching. And then the other day I had someone in my office. They were talking to my neighbor in the office, and they were saying I didn't hear the whole conversation. All I heard in the conversation was, "Oh yeah, be careful with your bugs because they could have demons in them or something like that." And I was like, "What the fuck did I just hear? Like, is this for real?"
Yeah.
Like, just as an aside.
What? Yeah. Was one of the books the Necronomicon or something like that?
At least then I'd kind of be like, okay, I understand. But of course, I looked over and the guy had the priest. He had the priest collar thing, and I was like,
well, you got to be careful of those dollar bills with the pyramid with the eye at the top, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my god! Like, was one of the books bound in human flesh? Watch out for that one, especially.
Screaming.
No, probably bound in
telephone book. I mean.
And I was like, I'm hearing this with my actual ears. Like the sound physically came from their stupid mouth and hit my ears.
I remember I've never had anybody say that to me, but I did have the experience many years ago of just having like a casual conversation with someone at the library. And there was a person, and they were a parent, and they were talking about how I'm trying to get my kid into reading more, and it's tough to find books that they're interested in, And I said, just sort of casually, I said, oh, well, you know, what about like, have you tried Harry Potter or something, you know? And she said, oh, no, they can't read Harry Potter because of the witchcraft.
Oh.
And I thought it was almost, I thought, oh, wow, so there are really people who think this.
Yeah, these people
Like,
actually exist. Yeah.
I always sort of assumed that it was just like, oh, it's just some crackpot preacher who's up there railing about it, and people don't really think that. It's like,
But
no, real.
I've never run into people.
Haven't they learned from the Wizard of Oz that you need to ask, are they a good witch or a bad witch?
Exactly.
Oh, I could.
These good witches.
The problem is with the evangelicals, there's probably no such thing as a good witch, and they just completely blow off Glinda because she's just glitzy. I mean, and she's also almost certainly gay. So
That's not biblical.
Satan was beautiful.
Yeah.
yeah, he was supposed to be the handsomest of all the angels, wasn't he?
He was fabulous.
Gotta
He was-
believe
Oh, fabulous.
According to the Christian Bible that was supposedly written from God's point of view. No, guys, you have no idea how beautiful Lucifer was. He was so hot.
I didn't realize God was Stephanie Meyer.
Satan had like the best pecs.
Oh shit.
He's so
Could
great,
be worse.
but he
Could be
won't hang
Joyce
out with me.
Meyer.
I think I'm going to cast him into hell.
Exactly.
you feel weird.
He likes those humans way too much.
Yeah. Well, the South Park movie was on TV here. Satan's pretty fabulous in that. Let's. Fabulous
Yeah,
enough for Saddam Hussein.
I would say I could get behind a Satan like that, but that's probably the wrong thing to say.
Get thee behind me, Satan. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be careful with him behind you with that
Yeah.
karate style.
You want to be careful. You want to, you
Yeah.
have to choose your words very precisely because he is evil.
Yeah. The only thing he needs is a degree in proctology.
I hope Satan doesn't wrap those big, strong arms around me and hold me in place.
Oh boy, everything. We always end up going in some totally unexpected direction.
Mm.
Not that I'm
It all turns to Satan eventually, doesn't it?
Well, you get a bunch of godless heathens together. Eventually, we all start talking about how hot Satan is.
He's
Yeah,
my
no.
dark prince.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Look, the Dark Lord has to make an appearance at some
Yeah.
point, so in every conversation. So
Yeah, where's Voldemort? I mean, what the Stark Lord crap? I mean, why are we fooling around with Voldemort? He's a wannabe.
He doesn't even know. Get out of my face.
Yeah, the problem with Voldemort is he has no nose.
Exactly. Ugh. Need style in my dark prince.
yeah,
What the fuck am I talking
yeah.
about?
I can't take seriously the Dark Lord with no nose. So
Alright.
Well, I know you were mentioning Glenda earlier, and I honestly always saw her as the villain of the piece. Because here you have Judy Garland going from a place of sepia tones and dust in the Depression of the 1930s and in Kansas, which, that's a twofer right there. And you go to this magical world where there are people with personalities and color and, LSD drugs
Go
and
from Kansas
flowers.
to a place where people have personality.
yeah,
Right, and
yeah.
at the end, she's like, no, you can go back to Dust Bowl, Kansas. It's the Depression. What could go wrong?
That's where you belong.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
I think is a perfect metaphor for religion in general. It's like, hey, there's this awesome place with all these people who are playing harps and like battling demons and shit, but you're not good enough to be here. Go back to hell.
Also, I need you to kill someone for me.
Yeah.
Well, there's the other thing too is the problem with Oz is that it's diverse. You had the Munchkins. You had all the other characters. You got these animals who have come to life. You got trees who have come to life. That's way too scary. It's way too varied. For these people who want to be white bread and safe and definitely Christian.
Yeah. Well, and
Friggin' SJWs are out of hand in Oz yet again.
Oz was great before the SJW showed up and ruined everything.
Oh dear.
Now now the trees want equal rights. Jesus Christ.
Everything's supposed to stay good and segregated, just like the Shire.
Use tree pronouns. Tree and true and true.
I have to use the right pronouns for a fucking tree. What is this? You know, when we reviewed The Wizard of Oz, me and Jason on our podcast Late Seating, and that was one of the points we brought up when we reviewed it, that it's kind of ass backwards because she's supposed to want to go back to the black and white hopeless world. Like that's where we're supposed to want her to get home to that and not stay in Oz, where once you get rid of the evil witch, things aren't really all that bad. Things seem pretty cool. You know,
That was actually the subject of a Futurama episode.
And
I think I remember that one.
Yeah,
No,
like
you wanna
towards
go
the
home
end.
to your charming
Or
family.
towards the end, they're like, "No, you want to go home," and she's like, "No, I'd like to stay here, actually."
Yeah, this is great.
I want to go home. I want to be a witch.
Yeah, that was it.
You know, here's something else to think about. What happens the day after she wakes up and everybody was gathered around her, it was all fine, well and good. What's going to happen? She's going to go right back to being ignored, to she won't have Elvira Gulch on her case, because Gulch almost certainly is gone. But it's going to go back to the same thing. Nobody listens to her. Nobody pays attention to her. And who knows what happens.
Well, we know what happened, of course, was a return to Oz in
You have to
1985.
you have to call the era that takes place, and they're like, "Oh, she's hysterical. She must be on her moon." You know.
Well, that's actually, now that I think there's a
Blood
pretty
flowing out. That's coming away from her brain.
it is a pretty damaging message to say, stick with your home. There's no place like home, even if it's abusive, ignoring, you're in poverty, you're way better off somewhere else. But you got to stick with your home and family no matter what, which is actually something
So it's a very pro-Republican message.
Yeah.
Well,
Of course it is.
Don't ever dream. Don't ever try to have anything more than what you have.
And don't ever take a chance.
Yeah. And
I was actually at
Don't pay your taxes.
I was at the graduation of the University of Kentucky a couple weeks ago, and that was like the spirit of the freaking president's message. He did the commencement speech, and he was like, "Well, back in the 40s, no one ever went like more than 30 miles from home. You damn kids in your Facebook." And I'm like, "Are you sure you're like the president of the college? This sounds rather like, you damn kids, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
Well, should we also mention back in the 40s, there was a war on, there was rationing going on. If you had an A card, you were lucky you could go, a couple of miles without running out of gas.
Yeah.
Well, there was also the fact that
My parents grew up during the war, so they had rationing and things like that too. I don't think they even had cars to ration gas with. So this was not like rural Scotland. It was different even from, say, the big cities. So even elsewhere in the UK. So.
Well, there was even the fact
But
that
it was a different time.
in his speech,
Everything,
he said something along the lines of, they all got along with each other for the greater cause with their open minds and shared perspectives. And I'm like, I don't think they were too kind to us. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. They've got open minds because they're all Republicans, or, they're all, these people with a single mindset. They aren't thinking outside of themselves to anybody who might disagree with them. And that's what's scaring people right now. These people who want a monolithic mindset are frightened by people who are saying, okay, women, deserve equality, LGBT deserve equality, trans people need to be treated,
like
the way they deserve to be treated, and so on and so forth.
It's acceptable for people to be different from you.
I always love when people talk about the good old days, and it's always someone who usually looks like me and has my gender identity and my sexuality, and it's back in the day we all got along. Well, because black people and women were too scared to raise their voices, and gay people and trans people and non-binary people were too scared to even let you know that they were there.
They were all in the closet.
Yeah, we had that one bar in town where we could get free drinks. We were really just spoiled, if you think about it.
The good old days,
The good old days.
I wish I had a whites only bar. Or a straights only bar. Oh, you mean like every other bar in town?
Yeah.
Like all of them?
Well, we used to have a thing called the 6 o'clock swill, because all the pubs and things here closed at 6 o'clock. So of really drunk men pouring out of all the pubs and hotels and things about 6 o'clock all of a sudden. So that was great. That was the good old days. These drunk men going home after work to their wives, who really needed to deal with that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's it's like, you know, yesterday here in my hometown, we had our annual white straight pride parade. We call it the Memorial Day parade. But that's what it is.
I'm sorry, annual? I don't think you guys only have one, do you?
Yeah, no, we actually, Sharp Spring has 2 or 3.
This was this particular day's parade.
Yes, we're like Disneyland. We have parades every day.
We'll have another one tomorrow, guys. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, it's also Guilt Trip meme weekend. I'm sure everybody sees this where they're like,
oh, yes.
You know, just in case you thought it was about barbecues. It's like, nobody thought that. This is a country that worships their friggin' military. Nobody's going, I don't know what Memorial Day is about, but I get free hot dogs, bitching.
Yeah.
I know. I love this quaint idea that we're not deferent enough to the military in the United States. Yeah. Like, we really need to start showing them more respect. Oh, you mean by not deploying them to unnecessary wars? No, by just, you know, sucking their dicks a little more.
But Steve, you know where that comes from, don't you? Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I
we
remember...
a similar thing here with Anzac Day, which is going all the way back to 1915. So, sorry, you were saying about Vietnam there.
Well, the point being that, I mean, guys would come back from Vietnam and they would, at minimum, you know, there would be situations they get spat on, they get attacked, they were baby killers, and then, unfortunately, in some cases, they were baby killers. But, I mean, it was ugly. It was serious. I remember a guy came up to Windermere Station here in Cleveland, and he was lucky he came away with his skin.
Yeah, and I don't think, I mean, obviously, nobody, you know, you shouldn't go out and mistreat somebody because they were a veteran. I mean, military veterans who served honorably, which thankfully is most of them, do deserve respect. But yeah, it's the idea from some people that it's never enough.
But
the thing is, we have that here too.
Yeah.
2 things have happened since then too. Number one, we recognize it and we swang way to the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Number 2, we've gone to an all volunteer force, which is radically different from what we'd experienced for the last, number of years before that, dating back to World War I, for crying out loud.
Civil War, really?
Well, yeah. I don't know if the draft was used to maintain standing armies after the Civil War, though, was it?
No, but it did for the war itself.
Yeah, I think actually the Civil War was the first. What was the first draft, wasn't it?
First conscription.
I'm not clear on that one. I do remember that the draft was very much in place during World War I, and the thing is, though, is odd because people were just falling in line trying to get involved in that based on what I understand of that history.
Well,
I mean, no, I wasn't alive back then.
The song stirred people to patriotic action.
Over there.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, but then they call themselves the greatest generation, though, as well. So it's like little up their own ass.
I mean, on the one hand, it's like, all right, yes, you won World War II, you beat Hitler. That's major props for that. Right, but it is a little, it's a little limiting to the accomplishments of other generations to declare any one particular generation as the greatest generation, because now that name is taken. Now, if there's if in 100 years another generation does something even more amazing, we're either going to have to call them something else.
Yeah, well,
the real greatest generation,
or we're going to have to rename this the current greatest generation. It'll be confusing.
Or better yet, Steve, why don't we just drop the labels and just, drop the labels, period.
And just teach people history without lionizing any particular generation.
Yeah, I mean,
certainly greatest generation part 2.
Yeah, we won. They won World War II, but they were also very much the causation of the current Christian-dominated culture that we have in the United States since World War II. And I refer anybody who's curious about that Kevin Kruse book, which I've mentioned before. I think it's in God We Trust, How Corporate America Invented Christian America.
Billy Graham, the Teflon.
Billy Graham, Feifeld, Eisenhower was in that up to his eyebrows. And you just... gag
what was the name of the book?
I think it's either In God We Trust or One Nation Under God is the lead, and then the subtitle is How Corporate America Invented Christian America. I can never remember exactly.
Yeah, I've read a book on that sort of thing fairly recently, but I can't think of the name of it now. So,
Well,
it just
look for
looks
Kevin
how-
M. Cruz,
Kevin M.
Kruze.
Cruz.
The guy is very sharp, and he writes his book. The virtue is his book is very damned readable.
Yeah, there are a lot of things about like the current identities that a lot of people claim, especially religious identities in the United States specifically, that are surprisingly recent. I mean, I forget where I read this. It wasn't in the Kevin Cruz book because I haven't read that, but there was another book I read some time ago where they talked about how until relatively recently, until like the 20th century, most Christians in America did not identify as Christian. They identified as whatever denomination they belonged to. So if you ask someone what their religion was, they would say Methodist. They wouldn't say Christian. Or they would say Lutheran. They wouldn't say Christian. It wasn't until the 20th century when it became much more politicized that Christians of all denominations suddenly began to think of themselves as Christians first, and as their particular church is like a level below that.
Because we had to fight against those godless, heathen Russian communists.
Exactly.
And then you throw in the Judeo-Christian thing because, I mean, it was their fault, but
People also associated more with their home state than they did the country. So, people thought of themselves as Virginians or Pennsylvanians rather than American.
Yeah,
that was
right,
definitely
exactly.
the Civil War.
Yeah, exactly. The Civil War shook us all up. A bunch of us got together and killed each other, and we said, let's just have one country.
I always thought we were just so bored because no one was messing with us that we just fought each other.
How long has it been since we had a proper war? What, 10, 15 years? Come on.
We gave a war, nobody came. Well, I guess we got to do something.
Let's just start killing each other. We've had this slavery thing on the back burner for like 50 years. Let's just go ahead and do that. We're going to have to do that war eventually anyway.
Yeah, it's got to happen.
We can't just free the slaves. we couldn't just do that. We have to have a huge 4-year war.
See, Steve, you
Hey,
get
how about
it.
we do the right thing? Fuck you.
You don't have time for rational ideas.
No, let's just start killing people. That's what I say.
Just going through the backlog of freedom, what do I want to do this week? Treat the Chinese right? Nah, maybe some later. Women's rights? No.
That's going to be a while in the future.
Yeah, let's put that off a little longer, right?
Yeah.
Slaves?
Well,
Slaves, guys? Yeah, let's do slaves. All right, let's do slaves, guys. Let's go.
But we'll do it in steps. We'll free them, but we'll still treat them like shit and mistreat them for another 100 years.
Slaves, and we'll actually make it worse for them for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
Classic office politics.
And 160 years later, we're still treating them like shit.
Exactly. Well, it'll be a real slow process. And whenever somebody starts getting impatient, we'll blame them for not being grateful for all the rights we gave them.
Look, I'm doing
That'll
my
slow it down
part.
even more.
It's the rights department. Call the rights department, ask for Susie, and she'll connect you, and we'll get this slavery thing all sorted out, I promise.
Slaves? I hadn't heard that. And speaking of that, it's another thing that's been happening this month that we haven't mentioned yet. The Confederate monuments in Louisiana finally being taken down.
Did you read the transcript or listen to the speech?
I saw that. You mean the mayor's speech?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that was so many people need to hear or read that shit.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Especially the people in Alabama who just banned taking down Confederate statues.
What was the general tone of the speech? Because I did not hear it.
Oh, it was talking about the lost cause myth and how Southerners are just basically assholes who are full of shit about everything. But he said it in very nice terms.
I should hope so. That's his constituency.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we lost Steve and someone else. I think everyone on my screen is frozen except for Jacob. That's weird.
I can hear you.
Anyway.
Well,
that's as good a time as any to drop out.
Yeah, we're pretty much done anyway. We have been going for an hour, and it's time to say goodbye.
Oh,
I know it's sad.
I could talk to you for hours.
I know. So I know, but I have shit to do.
No, you don't. You're a YouTube.
That's ungrateful. That's ungrateful.
You're like, I know, but I don't want to talk to you. Fucking an hour is
Jesus.
It has been 3 hours. Jesus.
Yeah, you're right. No, it's not that bad. This is actually, as I say every month. This is seriously one of the highlights of my month. I love doing this. I love getting to chat with you all, and it's just really cool. So yeah, I think I'll go ahead and wrap up. We've been having yet another of my monthly Patreon hangouts for the last hour. For anyone watching who you think this looked like fun, a patron of my channel for as little as $1 a month. Part of the reward that you get for supporting my work is you get a shot at being in this hangout with me once a month. And there's other stuff too. If you pledge at higher levels, you can get sneak peeks at videos and stuff like that. You can go to my Patreon page, patreon.com/Steve Shives, to see all of the different levels of rewards that I offer. I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to say thanks for watching. I'm going to say thanks to everybody here for being a patron and for joining me for this and making this yet another fun show. And we'll do this again next month. So bye, everybody.